Hello everyone. Today I'm going to explain IAS 27 separate financial statements. So before we dive into the technical numbers, I want you to think of a group company, Meta Incorporation, and its subsidiaries, Facebook, Oculus, WhatsApp, and Instagram. When the Meta shows the word their consolidated financial statements, they're showing a family photo. You see the parent, subsidiaries, their bank accounts mixed together. It's a one big happy family. But IAS 27 is for when the parent wants to step out and look at their own private records. This is what we call separate financial statements. In this view, the parent doesn't look at the subsidiaries' offices or their staff. Instead, the parent looks at the subsidiaries as investments. IS 27 is simply the rule book that tells the parent when you are looking at your own books, how do you want to value these investments. So, IS 27 is the me, myself, and I of accounting. It helps a company look in the mirror and see its investments. Now move on towards the scope of the IS 27. The trigger elects or is required. The parent company may voluntarily elect to prepare the standalone statements along with their consolidated statement, or may take exemption from the consolidated statement and prepare the separate financial statements. Or there might be a legal requirement for the companies to produce the standalone or the separate financial statements along with their consolidated statements. Secondly, the subject matter. Specific investments are taken into consideration for the application of IS 27. They can be the subsidiaries, your joint ventures, or the associates. The accounting choices for the measurement of the investments are available under IS 27. It can be measured at cost, fair value, or the equity method of accounting. Let's discuss the measurement under these methods. The first one is the cost method. For the cost method, the initial measurement is at cost, which includes the purchase price and all the directly attributable acquisition cost. And subsequently, the investment is measured at historical cost and remains the same on the balance sheet unless there is an impairment loss. Investment value is not remeasured as is done in the fair value method, and impairment test is applied in accordance with the IAS 36. And if you have measured your investment in any of the subsidiaries or joint ventures or associates at cost method, then consistency should be adopted. Measurement under the fair value method provides a market based valuation. It is ideal for tracking the investment's current worth. So, initial measurement is done using the fair value through profit or loss, or it might be through other comprehensive income if elected. Subsequently, at every change in the fair value, any gain or loss is recognized in the profit or loss or OCI. Let's discuss the transitioning to or from the investment entity status. If you are becoming an investment entity, then you should measure the investment at fair value through profit and loss and moving any difference in changes in fair value to the profit or loss statement. And if you are ceasing to be an investment entity, then you can use any of the method which is cost, fair value, or equity, but the fair value at the date of change of status will become the deemed initial value. The application of this standard is it must be consistent in your financial reporting. If you're using fair value method, then you must be consistent, and fair value method provides a market based valuation. The third way of measurement that is allowed by IAS 27 is equity method. Under equity method, the initial measurement is at cost, but subsequently, investors' share in the investee's profit or loss is added into the cost. And if any dividend is received by the investee, that is lessened from the cost. The application of the equity method is that it accounts for the share of investee's net assets and liabilities in the investment of the investor. It treats the investment more like a one like consolidation. Let me explain you the three methods using an illustration. The scenario is alpha company. Let's assume alpha company buys 100% of the beta company on 1st January 2024 and purchases the beta company at $1 million. Beta's profit for 2024 is $200,000 and Beta's dividend paid at the year end to alpha company is $50,000. The fair value of beta at 31st December, or which we call the year end, is $1,300,000. Under the cost method, at the year end balance sheet, this investment of alpha in beta will be at the cost, which is the purchase price, $1 million. And in the income statement, $50,000 of the dividend received by the beta company will be recognized as income, and $200,000 profit made by the subsidiary is totally ignored under the cost method. Now move on to the fair value method. Under fair value method, as the name indicates, the year-end balance sheet will show the investment of alpha and beta will be at the fair value of beta at the year end, which is $1,300,000, which is the market price of the beta company. In the income statement, $50,000 is of the dividend is recognized as the income as was done in the cost method. The 300,000 gain, which is due to the difference in the carrying value and the fair value, is recorded as a gain in the profit or loss statement, or as I told you earlier, it can be OCI if the company has elected to record their gain and loss using OCI. Under the equity method, the balance sheet at the start of the year will be $1,000. We'll add the profit which is made by the beta company is 200,000. We'll add this 200,000 of profit in the cost. Then we'll subtract the dividend received by the alpha company from the beta company, which is 50,000, and the closing balance, which is $1,150,000, will be the balance sheet figure of the investment of alpha company and beta company. The share of beta's profit, that is 200,000, will only be recognized in the balance sheet of the alpha company at the year end. Okay, now let's summarize this illustration in a tabular form. As you can see, the initial value under 3 of the method is same, which is the purchase price, but the year-end value is different in all the 3 methods. Income recognized in the profit and loss is dividend received under the cost method, while it's the dividend and the gain due to the difference of the carrying value and the market value in the fair value method, and the share of the profit of beta company for alpha company is the gain in the income statement under the equity method. So what are the impacts of dividend under all of these 3 methods is that under the cost method, the dividend increases the income in the profit and loss statement, and it does the same under the fair value method. But in equity method, it reduces the investment value. So that's the difference of all 3 methods explained using the illustration in both the written and the tabular form. Moving on towards the dividend recognition under all 3 methods. There is a default treatment under cost or fair value method, which is it is recognized as the income in the profit or loss statement. Or as we discussed earlier, under the equity method, it reduces the book value of the investment on the balance sheet. What are the disclosure requirements under the IAS 27? When parent elects not to prepare the consolidated statement, then it should disclose that these statements are separate financial statements and that parent company has gained the exemption from preparation of the consolidated statements. They should also list all the significant investments in the subsidiaries, joint ventures, and all their associates, and the proportion of the parent's ownership or interest in all the investees, and the description of the method that being used for the accounting of the investments in the investees. And when an investment entity is a parent and it prepares a separate financial statements, it should also present the disclosures relating to the investments under IFRS 12 that includes the disclosure of interest in other entities. Thanks, that's all for IAS 27 separate financial statements. Thanks for watching.